The seconds are out. The crowd is waiting. The boxers are getting ready to battle. Time for another edition of the Shoulder Roll Virtual Boxing Podcast with your presenter, Greg Rashid.
Well, I want to say Swade Krap to everyone out there, which means hello in Thai. This is Greg Rashid, live in Bangkok, Thailand, with another edition of the Shoulder Roll Virtual Boxing Podcast. I want to thank so many people out there who are listening to the program. I've got more and more people listening all over the world, and I just want to thank all of you. But a lot of folks listen every Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. Mountain Time in Colorado, on KUHSdenver.com, created by the one and only Henry Archuleta. And I want to say hi to all my friends in Colorado, and I keep saying I'm coming back there to visit, and I will be there. I'll surprise you, but I will be there. But right now, I'm here in gorgeous Bangkok, Thailand, enjoying it. And, oh, I forgot to say, go Broncos. Got to say that. But anyway, we're going to have a great show as always today. If you're new to the program, what we do on here is fantasy fights. We use different computer games, card and dice games, create fantasy fights, because you're listening to the program, you like boxing. And I know you sit around and you say, I wonder what happened if Muhammad Ali fought or Alexander Usyk or something like that. And that's what we do in this program, recreate fights. We also talk about news in the world of boxing and all combat sports. We also do interviews with boxers, authors, and we have an interview today. We have a special interview today, and also at the end of the program, we do a little music. But right now, we're going to get into our interview, and this is a hobbyist. He's, created a great game originally as a hobby, and I'm talking about Kevin Elias, and he's going to talk about the game that he created right now, and just sit back and enjoy it on the Shoulder Roll Virtual Boxing Podcast. And like I always tell folks on my show, I like to have on here boxers from time to time, authors, and also game developers and just enthusiasts about boxing. And I'm honored to have on the program today a creator, I should say, he doesn't call himself a developer, he's a hobbyist. But he created a game called 4 Dice Championship Boxing. And who I'm talking about is Kevin Elias. And are you there, Kevin?
I'm here, Greg. Nice to have you. Thanks for having me on.
And thanks for coming on today. And I just want you, first of all, I really, as I said, off air, at first I was having a little problem with the game, but now I really like it. So I want you to first of all tell my listeners how you arrived at creating this game, your history as far as boxing. Are you a boxing fan, enthusiast, or is just something you said, I'll just create something out of the air with this boxing game? Just tell us a little about your background and all.
No, Greg, I'm a huge boxing fan. In fact, it's my second favorite sport next to football, pro football, of course, and college football. But boxing, I go way back. I enjoyed the sport way back in the 70s, early 70s, of course, when I was just a toddler. And my dad always liked boxing. Our favorite boxer, heavyweight champion, Joe Frazier. We loved Joe Frazier. Uh-huh. We loved him. My all-time favorite boxer, though, Greg, is the Hawk, Aaron the Hawk Pryor.
Oh, really?
I loved him. Oh, yes, absolutely. He was incredible. But growing up, I always played games. I made my own games, basic games back in the day, whether it be baseball, football, etc. Because I played a little bit of sports, but let's face it, I wasn't that good. I was a bench warmer and more of a coach than anything else. So I always wanted to fantasize about the sport. So right. I would create games in order to relive those great moments. And here I am now in my 50s. I'm still playing. In fact, my wife asks me all the time. She says, "When are you going to kind of grow up?" I said, "Well, I do. But this is my fantasy. You like to go shopping, and
Hey,
this is
there you
my
go.
reality.
Hey,
Sitting down and
I'm 71. I'm still doing this. I've been doing this since I was like 13. So give me a break, you know.
Yeah, it's a great way to escape. And with boxing, there was a lot of great boxing games. I would never bash a boxing game. They're all good. But the problem I had with a lot of them, Greg, a lot of them were more punch by punch oriented games. And you would have a match that would take 20, 30, and 45 minutes for a match. And that's all well and good. And it's great because you can visualize the details that's happening. The problem I had with it was I wanted to have a boxing league, my own federation, if you will. And in order to do that, I needed to have multiple fights. I wanted to get through a lot of fights. So that led me to designing games that was oriented where you can play a match out, within maybe 4, 5, 10 minutes, and you're on to your next match, because that made a lot more sense to me. That there was a lot more drama and storylines in that. And the Fordyce boxing actually evolved from several prototypes, basic games that came to the point where I said, well, I wanted to create something that was real, that could be authenticated based on real life statistics. And that led me to Fordyce boxing.
And how did you arrive at some of your statistics? Because I find that some of the things in the game, especially the whole thing about the stamina, I really find that fascinating. How you did that, and just arrive. Where did you come up with that? And also the whole knockout percentage, because I have some. To me, it's still a little controversial because it seems like there are some folks who should never be knocked out, or who should be able to knock out people who can't. And just, I mean, I arrived at all that.
Okay, well, see that your inquisitiveness is where you got to draw the line, because in most boxing games you will find that it's all based subjectively on one's personal opinion, and in my games I don't believe in that. I don't believe in there should be anything subjective or opinionated, because then you skew the realm of what you're trying to get at. I'm in the media. I'm a former news director. Now I teach broadcasting, and I teach my kids this: you present the facts, you present all sides of the facts, and you let the audience decide for themselves which side of the fence they're on regarding an issue or a topic.
That's right.
The problem is today in our society with the media is it is all slanted. It's slanted to the views that they want you to see, or they want to push. They want to push an agenda. So if you like a certain, let's say a Republican Party, Democratic Party, or whatever the agenda is, you find that network or that newspaper publication or that radio show or podcast that suits your interest. I didn't learn that way. I learned that you present the facts, and that's how it is, which leads me to Fordyce boxing and all of my games. It has to be based to me on numbers, real statistics. Yes, you can argue numbers to your blue in the face. You can make numbers do whatever you want them to do. But in the end, in reality, the numbers are true. You can't argue the numbers. You can't argue wins and losses. You cannot argue a person's percentage to get knocked out, or a person's percentage to knock another fighter out. Right. You can't argue that point because it's right there in front of you. So when you talk about stamina, it's basically based on numbers. Okay, there's base numbers, and it's based on, you take that and then you combine it with the overall rating of the fighter. And that's how you arrive at a stamina. Because in all honesty, you're going to be subjective. Most people would be subjective to stamina. Well, they said, well, okay, you could say Muhammad Ali had a greater stamina rating than, let's say, a Mike Tyson. Okay, yeah, I guess you could say that subjectively. Why? Because Muhammad Ali lasted longer in his fights than Mike Tyson's fights were a lot shorter. But let's say Mike Tyson fought 15 rounds or 12 rounds in most of his fights. We don't know that, so we can't put a direct number to that without being subjective. So you can't argue that point. So I have to base it on numbers and then base it on a formula to match and go along with those numbers. That's about as best that you can do that without really putting any kind of slant to it.
Yeah, I understand your point now. After reading the rules and now talking to you, yeah, I get your point definitely because it's not like the other sports where basketball, Trae Young averages 25 points a game, so you could put that into a game,
True.
or Cal Raleigh hits 60 home runs. You could just put that. Okay,
Right.
that's it. Boxing is so it's there's stats, but there's not real stats. Because something said in one of your emails, I want you to elaborate on it, and I like that you do this. You'll make I shouldn't say a card, but you'll make something where a fighter maybe, let's just say his rating may be 100%, but that may be based on his first 20 fights, and then you'll have the same fighter like in his last 5 fights, and the rating might drop to 70. And I
Yeah. See
like
how
that.
right.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Now, what I do, Greg, generally speaking, in four dice boxing, when you're seeing a fighter, you're going to see their if they're, of course, they're retired, you're getting the rating based on their overall resume in their career. Okay, now I have had people ask me, and they would argue and challenge the points. Well, wait, Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson's ratings lower than a current fighter, and I say yes, because as that fighter gets older, and as that fighter continues to fight, the numbers and the averages are going to drop. So at that point, I would make up a Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali at maybe a 35 fight or a 30-point fight measure. So I would give you his rating, which would be substantially different than the end rating when he retired. And so that would allow you a more true, accurate fight to fight Mike Tyson in his prime versus maybe a Tyson Fury or something at this point than the overall agenda. And another thing I do too is I really look, and I do not only look at numbers, but I look at the overall resumes. Again, I don't want to pit. I hate that too in boxing, because you always say, well, okay, Marvin Hagler was the greatest middleweight of his era. Okay, one of the greatest middleweights of all times, which I will argue that point. But then you'll say, okay, Roy Jones, he has a great record. He had a great run, but he didn't fight anybody. Well, that's not his fault, Greg.
That's right.
There were great fighters during Roy Jones's era, as opposed to when Marvin Hagler was there and he was fighting Roberto Duran, Thomas Hearns, and Sugar Ray Leonard. So you can't fault a boxer for that. You can only fault a boxer for what he does in the ring, what he does or doesn't do against the caliber of opponent he's been put against. So I throw that out. But what I do is I do look at the boxer's overall records. And what I like to do is, and this is something that people find interesting, I'll look at a fighter and I'll see when he retired. Now, if he retired and made a comeback, okay, if that comeback was 2 years later than when he retired, I'll look at up to his last 5 fights after he come back. And if he lost those fights in any way, shape, or form, I'll throw those out the door. I will not count those, because he was already retired for 2 years and made a comeback. Now, I'll count the wins, but I will not count the losses against him, even if he got knocked out.
So you're talking like somebody, for instance, like Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yeah, I would not do that, because it's 2 years removed and he's coming back. So you figure he's coming back for various reasons, and the chances of him being in his prime or anywhere near his prime is nothing but basically tarnishing the resume that he created. So I don't want to hold that against the boxer, and I won't do that. So that's why I look very close at their numbers, not only their numbers, but very close at the resume and where they are and where they ended up at the end of their careers.
What type of fighter is the hardest one for you to try to figure out a formula for? Who has been the hardest for you?
Really, I mean, probably the hardest is and I see this a lot too. And this is, when people buy the game, they'll look and they'll look over the roster of fighters and they'll say, well, this one's missing or that one's missing. Well, no, those boxers aren't missing, Greg, but they're in other divisions. That's the biggest problem, I think, is when the fighters are moving up to various divisions. It's not like it was when we enjoyed boxing in the 70s and 80s, where they were fighting heavyweights, they were fighting as welterweights, junior middleweights, lightweights. They were fighting there. They pretty much stay there. They might move up a weight class, but they're not going to move up 3 and 4 weight classes. So that becomes a little bit difficult because, again, the competition is different. Just like, let's talk real boxing. I mean, I hope you enjoyed as much as I did the Canelo Alvarez Terrence Crawford
fight.
Yeah,
are you kidding? Terrence Crawford.
I loved it.
The last fight I covered in America before I came over here to Thailand was Terrence Crawford, and because I lived in Nebraska when Crawford fought Danu. I saw him.
Right.
And it's amazing, and I've told my listeners this, in the press room after the fight, to look at that little guy, Terrence Crawford, versus looking at him in the Canelo fight. I said, my goodness, that's the same guy I looked at that I was sitting in the room with? I mean, because he, 135 pounds versus 165 plus.
True.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
And no one gave him much of a chance. They in fact, they criticized him, Greg, because they said he didn't pick up any weight. He didn't bulk up for the fight. He says, how's he going to go into it? Yeah, he's got a physique and all, but he's too light and he'll never survive the punches. And I said,
like I said on the show, people didn't know that he was a wrestler. The guy is like, he's doing 400 pounds on squats. I mean, come on. He's strong. The guy is strong. So it didn't surprise me what happened in that fight.
I love the fight, Greg, and see, to me, Terrence Crawford is the complete package. When I compare him with Floyd Mayweather Jr., there's no comparison. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is a master of the sport, very intelligent fighter, but he doesn't take chances. Great defensive fighter, knows how to score. Terrence Crawford, on the other hand, is the complete package. And like I said, I don't think there's any comparison when you look at the two fighters.
I agree with that because they're two different fighters. But Floyd, he took a lot of chances when you really look at his fight. And I got to say this. When he fought Canelo prior to that fight, I said that Floyd was going to be whipped badly in that fight. It shocked me how he easily took on Canelo in that fight. When he fought Marcos Maidana, I thought he was going to lose that. And he stood toe-to-toe with him. Stood toe-to-toe with both of them. When he fought Miguel Cotto, same thing.
Yeah.
He stood with them. And these are guys I said, God, I don't know about this. I'm not sure about, these fights. So, but I rate, as far as, and I'm not a Mayweather fanboy. I'm not going to, defend everything he did because I can't do that. But I have met his uncle. I have been to Mayweather, the gym in Vegas, and I met Jeff. And so I have a different perspective on them. But if you would ask me, which fighter do I like the best and rank them, I got to put Crawford first. I have to.
Yeah, me too.
I have
and
to,
again,
really.
Greg, I respect. Don't get me wrong. I respect Floyd Mayweather. Again, a master boxer, great defensive fighter. And again, he knows how not to get hit. He has the angles, and he's been magnificent at it. It's just like I said, there are other fighters out there that really put it out on the line, such as a Terrence Crawford, and that I give a lot more credit to.
Yeah, Terrence has, and Terrence also, his defense is underrated. It's underrated.
It
is. But you don't want a fighter to put so much out on the line, but they end up like a Terrell Gotti, for instance, someone like that.
Yeah.
You don't want to face, or even Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier was actually a face fighter. His defense was his face. You can't let, he only had 30, he didn't even make 40 fights total. I mean, it's
No.
just, you can't be like that. But anyway, we're going to get back to the game itself, your game. So, there are people who are listening in right now who are like, I like boxing. And they're talking about this guy's got this game. I'm talking to Kevin Elias if you're just tuning in. And, but why, why should I get this game?
Because Greg, the game answers the what ifs. See, the difference between four dice boxing, and again, I make other games as well. But the problem I have a lot with gamers today, all gamers want to do is they want to replay games. They want to
Ah,
replay
there you go.
Super Bowls. We've
Yeah.
already seen that. That's called history.
just,
We don't need to see that.
just go on
Me,
YouTube and look at it again. That's what
yes,
I always say.
I want to know the what ifs.
Yeah.
What would happen what would happen if a Canelo Alvarez took on a Marvin Hagler or whatnot?
Right.
That's what I want to see, because we'll never see it. We'll never know. We can question and argue and debate it all the time, but the game like this allows you to do that, and it brings it up in conversation, which is good for the sport of boxing.
Right. Yeah, it definitely is. And everyone who's a boxing enthusiast and all, you're always sitting around. That's how I begin my show. You're always what if it. Always.
Mm-hmm.
And I see it online all the time. What if, Crawford fought Hagler, Crawford, all of this. You always see that. And your game does reproduce that, in a quick way.
That's the idea, Greg. I wanted to make a game that was basically simple, but allowed real statistics and real ratings to enter in the equation, where you can simply roll four dice and you can match it up against the ratings of the fighters. And again, there are advantages based on the ratings. You do calculations, very simple calculations, and then you see what happens. And just before we came on the air, you questioned me about Hector Macho Camacho. I was a huge Hector Macho Camacho fan, but in the game, he can get beat. I mean, that can happen. That was another thing that's amazing. You see these boxing games, and again, I love them all, but these boxing games, the fighters they'll have cut ratings and such.
Right.
How, in honesty, can you give a fighter a cut rating? I can't. It's all subjective. I mean, let's face it. In reality, any boxer could be cut at any time.
Anytime you step in the ring, you can get cut. You can get cut.
Right, absolutely. No one is immune from that. So you got to throw that rating out. Now, the defensive rating I have in the game, Greg, is simply a matter of matching up the statistics of their fights against their losses and against the times they were knocked out. So that arrives at a defensive rating that is clear and definitive. There's no arguments. It's as clean as and plain as day. So obviously, if a fighter was 31-0 or 30, let's say he was 31-3, okay, 3 losses, but he was never knocked out, he's going to have the best defensive rating there, because even though he lost 3 matches, he was not knocked out in any of those matches. So he's going to have the best defensive rating possible.
What if you have a fighter that never knocked out, but always knocked down? There are fighters out there.
There are.
Who have been knocked down many times, but not knocked out. Not knocked out, for a long
time. But again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Again, though, Greg, if let's say they were knocked down, let's say they lost 5 fights and they were knocked down in all 5 of those fights and their losses, but they were never knocked out, they're still going to have a high defensive rating because they were not knocked out of the fight.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, I can kind of see that and see that in a sense. But what? Well, let me ask you too. With the game that you have, what would you tweak with it? Are you still working on like little things you want to tweak, add on to it?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, you've been playing a quick play version. That I wanted to make it an even quicker play version where just a couple of rolls will determine a match. I'm going to enter into the arena playing cards.
Oh, really?
Using
Oh,
cards. Yes, because a lot of people like cards and they don't like to roll dice all the time. So we're going to be entering playing cards into this here pretty soon. The only other thing I would say as far as tweaking goes, if you look at if you read the instructions, now a true gamer, and again, that's not me. I enjoy gaming, sports gaming, but not to the point where you're going to roll to see. You can do this in the game if you look in the back pages. A fight, you can roll pre-fight for each fighter.
oh yeah. I was gonna get to that.
To
Yeah.
see how the boxer comes into the match, and maybe their ratings are adjusted a little bit accordingly. Now you could do that, and a lot of gamers like to do that. Me, I just want to have the fights based on the numbers and be done. But the only thing I'm probably going to tweak a little bit, and this would be an add-on now, that we're not changing the rules, not changing anything, maybe add to the stamina just a bit, the overall stamina for every fighter, that you could add to it if you want, because I I hate to get into the stamina. I didn't really. I only added the stamina rating because people had asked for that. They wanted to see, a fighter. They should be getting weaker as the fight goes on, and I agree with that.
Right.
So we did that, but the problem is with stamina. Sometimes fighters go the other way, and they get a
Yeah.
stamina, they get a boost. They knock a guy down. They get a little adrenaline rush midway through. After maybe they coasted a couple of rounds, and they're good for the final rounds. So that's the only thing. If
Someone
I
like
could,
Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. He was
yes,
good at that.
mm-hmm.
He would lose his first 5, 6 rounds. He wasn't doing
Right,
anything, and then he would just come
and
on.
even if you notice, Canelo Alvarez does the same thing. There's documented proof where there's a couple of rounds that he usually takes off,
Oh yeah.
and then it helps him for the latter part of the fight. And again, boxers are trained, and they focus for that, so they can make it through the 12 rounds in a title fight like that.
No, I do like the stamina that you put in there. To me, I was doing quick fights, but then I did the longer, which aren't really that long fights. And I really
No,
like that. And I used Ernie Shavers as a test on that to see if how long he would last. And by the fourth round, he was gassed.
yeah,
He was
which is
gassed,
true. I mean,
which is good, which is the way it really is. But we're gonna have to close shortly because we're running out of time here. And I could talk to you. I got to get you back on. I got to get you
I'd
back on
love
here,
to be
Kevin. Yeah, because
anytime. I
yeah,
appreciate
because
it.
we got to talk media too. Because I didn't know until I talked to you offline. I didn't know you were, been in media so long. So we can get into that because I'd like to talk to you about the effects of AI in media, what's going on. Because there's some things, even though I use a lot of AI on the one hand, on the other hand, some things I really don't like that are going on. But that's a
True.
topic for another day. Now,
Yeah.
with your game, how can someone oh, by the way, with your game, are you even thinking about putting it on a computer or PC? Would that take something away from it?
You could, but you have to understand again, Greg. People ask often, they say, "Do you have a website?" Yes, I had a website. Okay, and I don't maintain it. I'm a teacher. I'm a high school broadcasting teacher. Okay, gaming is my hobby and my love, my escape.
Right.
I created these games. Basically, it was originally for me, and then I started sharing the concepts with people, and they said, you ought to start marketing that. You got to start selling that. So I've never been interested in or wanted to expand to the point where, okay, I had, there, you can get it here, you can get it online, you can get it as far as an online download or PC. Maybe in the future, I don't know. But
And
I
how
haven't.
can people, one thing you haven't said yet, how can people get the game? How can they get it?
Well, I market for Dice Boxing on two sites.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Facebook. If Facebook is, you probably found it there. There's a number of different gaming groups on Facebook. So I started there, and I have a personal gaming page called the Ultimate Fantasy Boxing and Professional Wrestling page, a group, and I market it there, and also Delphi forums. a great place. It's a chat blog place, if you will, for gaming and all kinds of
Right.
genres.
Okay.
And I
Right. Yeah,
promote
it's a
it there.
great place too. But Kevin, I want to ask you too. I'm listening. I'm just a boxing fan. Just take my, I'm just sitting here listening to these two guys talking. I don't know Delphi. I don't know
I understand.
Facebook. How can I get in contact with you to get this game?
Your best bet is probably to, if you look up, I think if you look up Four Dice Boxing, you can find the website. It's still up and running, I know. It's not as current as it should be, but it does have an email address, I believe, that you can send to,
Give them your email address. That's important. Give
um,
me.
yeah, my email address you can always send to, would be safe, would be Dolfan, and that's DOLFAN 26062 at gmail.com.
One more time. One more time.
It's Dolfan, DOLFAN 26062 at gmail.com.
Okay. And if they want, and how much is the game? The
Oh, the
starting
game,
price.
Greg, the game is just $10 for the base game, the game that you were playing initially, and that includes 400 original boxers, the charts, everything you need. All you need are some dice. And then what I do, just to make sure, because I think in gaming you've got to keep your game current.
That's
So
right.
every other month, bi-monthly, we put out new roster editions that include about 100 to 150 new fighters that's current and past fighters. And then we sometimes will add different elements and add-ons to the game. So basically, one could expect to buy the game. And again, every other month or 6 times a year, we put out special editions for the game. And then come January, what I do is the first way to kick off the year, I go through all of the fighters in each of the weight divisions, all the current fighters, and I update all of their ratings based on the past year so that you're getting the most current updated ratings for the current fighters. And no game, Greg, does that.
Right. Yeah, that's, you're doing a great, and that's a great thing. So, Kevin, I want to thank you for coming on. And I want to say
Thank
one thing, because,
you.
for being, this is basically a show that's out of Denver and Colorado. Make sure, because I said it to you in the email, that you put the Colorado Hall of Fame boxer, DeVero Williamson, my friend, in the next game.
I will do that.
And Stevie Johnston, I don't think he's in the game. You may, gotta get Stevie in there. These are two legends in Colorado. So,
Will do. And that's another thing, Greg. I say this each and every month when we put out an edition. I want to hear from the gamers. Any boxer that they want in the game, send it to me, and I guarantee they'll be in the next edition.
that's great. That's really good. So you take care. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on. Thank you. We'll have you back on again. Take care, Kevin.
All right. Have a good one.
And I enjoyed that conversation with Kevin. We're going to have him back on again. And check out the game if you can. Great little game there. Not expensive. Fun. And that's what we try to have on this program. That's what we do on this program, have fun. Yeah, but check out the game. 4 dice, just a great 4 dice boxing. Just a fun little game to have. And just thank Kevin again for being on. And all you other developers out there, because besides having Kevin, Elias on, I've had Gary Brown with Legends of Boxing on. I've had Lee Crux on, who does the great Glory Days of Boxing. And there's so many other folks out there who listen to this program. And I know you're developers. I know you have boxing games. So give me a holler. If you want to be on, we'll put you on. Because there are a number. I'm not going to name names, but you know who you are. Because I like to support folks out there who create these games, because boxing is a niche sport for many folks in America, but around the world, it's big. It's big, especially in Britain, especially over here in Asia. So, in Japan in particular. So, yeah, make an effort to get in contact with me if you have a game. But right now, we're going to switch gears right now, and Jessica, she's going to tell us about the boxing history for this week. Take it away, Jessica.
This is Jessica, your martial arts champion, with your boxing history for the week of October 19th through October 25th. October 19th, 1923, Ban Johnson persuaded American League owners to prohibit boxing in their parks. October 20th, 1947, Rinty Monahan regained the world flyweight title with a 15-round decision over Dado Marino. October 21st, 1953, Carl Olsen became world middleweight champion over Randy Turpin. October 22nd, 1966, Carlos Ortiz beat Sugar Ramos to retain his world lightweight title. October 23rd, 1964, Joe Frazier defeated German Hans Huber and won the Olympic heavyweight gold medal in Tokyo. October 24th, 1894, Ted Kid Lewis was born. He would win the World Welterweight Championship twice and be regarded as one of the all-time greats. October 25th, 1996, When We Were Kings is released. The documentary film directed by Leon Gast about the heavyweight championship fight between Muhammad Ali and George Foreman in Zaire.
Thank you very much for that, Jessica. And wait, whoa, hold it right now. Oh, Malcolm and Ella, what else? We don't have roaches in here. And what, you want us to get a pit bull? No. Oh. You want to talk about the upcoming fight between Lamont Roach and Pitbull Cruz. Okay. So here are Malcolm and Ella talking about that upcoming fight on the Shoulder Roll Virtual Boxing Podcast.
Okay, let's dive right in. We're looking at a really potentially explosive fight coming up December 6th, San Antonio.
That's right. Isaac Pitbull Cruz versus Lamont Roach Jr. This one's got a lot bubbling under the surface.
It really does. And we're talking Cruz, the WBC interim super lightweight champ at 140 pounds.
Against Roach, the current WBA super featherweight champ at 130. That's a big jump for Roach.
A huge jump. So our mission today really is to go beyond just the basic preview. We want to dig into the source material, look at the technical clash here.
Yeah, the styles are almost polar opposites. And then there's that whole weird history they both share with Gervonta Tank Davis.
Exactly. That Davis connection seems to be coloring everything, especially the money and even the betting lines, which seem a bit strange.
Totally strange. So fundamentally, you've got the classic setup, don't you? The brawler versus the boxer.
Cruz, all Mexican style, relentless pressure, just coming forward constantly.
High volume power. Never takes a step back. That's his reputation.
And Roach, he's the technician. Calm, precise, defensive, uses angles, distance.
It's pure skill versus pure strength, almost. We need to figure out who imposes their style here.
Let's start with that Davis factor then, because, like you said, it seems to define both of them in the public eye.
It's unavoidable. Tank is the common measuring stick, and it's really messing with the pre-fight analysis, particularly those betting odds.
It is bizarre. Why would odds makers initially have Roach, the guy jumping up 2 weight classes from his championship weight, as the heavy favorite?
Well, you have to look back at Roach versus Davis, which was, March 2025?
Right. Roach moved up to 135 for that one, was a massive underdog.
And he fought Tank to a majority draw. Scores were 115-113 for Davis, but then 2 114-114s.
But the story behind the scores is crucial, isn't it? A lot of people felt Roach actually won that fight.
Many did. CBS Sports, for instance, had it 116-113 for Roach. And the big moment everyone points to.
That knockdown that wasn't called in round 9.
Exactly. Roach lands a jab, Davis clearly takes a knee, but the ref doesn't rule it a knockdown.
Which, if it had been counted, swings the fight completely. So the narrative becomes Roach tied Tank. And really, he should have won.
And that perception, it elevates him massively. It suggests he can handle elite power and skill even at a higher weight. That's why he's favored over Cruz, despite Cruz being the champ at 140.
Okay, but let's contrast that with Cruz's fight against Davis. That was back in 2021.
Right. Cruz lost, but he gave Tank hell. Took him the full 12 rounds.
And the argument there is that Cruz faced the best version of Tank Davis, a peak Tank.
That's definitely part of the conversation. Some analysts argue the Tank that fought Roach looked, maybe less engaged, mentally tired, perhaps. He'd ended up taking the Jake Paul fight instead of the Roach rematch.
So does fighting a potentially diminished version of Davis automatically mean Roach has the better form line here? I'm not sure it's that simple.
It's definitely not simple. That's why we call it a narrative. An elite fighter needs to perform regardless. But optically, Roach boxed brilliantly against an undefeated champ. Cruz fought incredibly hard but still lost the decision.
So the market sees Roach's style as maybe being the key. Like, he neutralized Tank's power, maybe he can neutralize Cruz's too.
That seems to be the thinking. Plus, you absolutely cannot ignore the money angle for Roach. This fight is huge for him financially.
Yeah, our sources mentioned that. He got step-aside money when the Tank rematch fell through for the Paul fight.
And now this Cruz fight is reportedly netting him somewhere between $5 and $6 million. Total package.
Wow. Compare that to defending his 130-pound title.
It's night and day. You're talking maybe 6 figures for a title defense versus 7 figures for this one fight at 140. So for Roach, the financial incentive is just massive. Title loyalty kind of takes a back seat.
That makes sense. It's a career-defining payday. Okay, let's shift focus to Cruz himself. Isaac Pitbull Cruz. He's really become a symbol, hasn't he? Especially for Mexican boxing.
He has. He embodies that resilience, that sort of rebirth narrative. And fighting in San Antonio with its strong Latino identity, that's significant.
Huge. Talk about his style. You called him a demolition derby. What does that look like technically?
It's pure, relentless forward pressure. Non-stop. High-volume punching, explosive power, especially with his hooks and body shots. He wants to fight in close quarters.
He wants to turn it into a brawl, basically. How does he actually force that against someone trying to stay away, like Roach?
He's actually quite good at cutting off the ring. He closes the distance, takes away escape routes, and forces you to stand and trade in that short zone. That's where he thrives.
And physically he's short, right? 5'4". How does that play into his strategy?
It's a major advantage for his style. That low center of gravity lets him get under taller opponents' punches, like a Roach's jab, and then unload those heavy shots, those hammers, from underneath.
What about his defense? Because he takes shots to give shots, doesn't he?
He does, but it's calculated. He uses a very high, tight guard, keeps his chin tucked, uses head movement, and changes levels constantly. He often forces opponents to punch down onto the hardest part of his skull.
Makes sense. It minimizes damage and can even wear down the opponent's hands. But you mentioned a weakness of versatility, or lack thereof.
Yeah, he's been called, maybe unfairly, a bit one-dimensional. Look at his losses. All 3 came against guys who successfully outboxed him from range, kept him at arm's length.
Like the Jose Valenzuela fight recently where he lost the WBA title. Valenzuela used movement and the jab.
Exactly. If you can keep Cruz turning, keep him reaching, and avoid getting trapped on the ropes, you can frustrate him. He needs that close-range battle.
But he has bounced back since then. 2 wins, picked up this WBC interim belt against Salcido in July. So he's got momentum.
Absolutely crucial momentum.
Yeah.
Because he'll need every bit of it against the kind of technical skill Roach brings.
Okay, let's pivot to Roach then. The defensive puzzle master. He's the total opposite of Cruz, isn't he?
Completely. Calm, patient, technical. It's all about angles, rhythm, distance control for him. A very slick boxer.
His plan A has to be stay outside, use the jab, frustrate Cruz, win rounds on points.
100%. He's not known as a power puncher. I think he's only 10 KOs in 28 fights. So he's not looking for the knockout. He's looking to outsmart and outbox Cruz over 12 rounds.
We heard he uses some defensive techniques like the shoulder roll, almost like Mayweather. How effective is that against Cruz's swarm?
The shoulder roll, the Philly shell, yeah. It's designed to deflect straight shots and use waist movement, that bending you mentioned, to slip hooks. Against Cruz's looping shots, Roach will need incredible upper body and head movement.
But that bending action, is it risky?
It can be, yeah. Especially if Cruz does manage to trap him close. Bending at the waist can leave you open for those vicious body shots Cruz throws. That's a key battleground. Can Roach slip and move, or will Cruz pin him down?
And this all leads back to the biggest question mark, the weight. 130-pound champ fighting at 140. This is his second fight above 132.
It's the X factor, isn't it? Roach's whole style relies on mobility, quickness, footwork. Can he maintain that effectively at 140 pounds?
Has he put on muscle? And if so, does that slow him down? Plus, his activity level. You mentioned it's low.
Yeah, 5 fights in 4 years, roughly 1 every 10 months. Is that smart management keeping him fresh? Or is it potential ring rust against a buzzsaw like Cruz at a higher weight?
It's a gamble. If Cruz manages to make it a rough, physical fight, can Roach's chin hold up at 140? Can his legs keep him moving for 12 rounds under that pressure?
That's the million-dollar question. Or, well, the $5 to $6 million question for Roach, I suppose. And interestingly, the WBA hasn't stripped him of his 130 title yet, despite him fighting outside the division again.
What does that signal?
It kind of signals that everyone recognizes the financial gravity of these bigger fights. Maybe the sanctioning bodies are being a bit lenient, allowing him to chase these bigger paydays, which means Roach comes in maybe less worried about his 130 belt and fully focused on this massive opportunity.
Right. Okay, so what's actually at stake beyond the money? The winner gets the WBC interim super lightweight title. What does that really unlock?
It's basically a golden ticket, like we said. It puts the winner right in line for a mandatory shot at one of the big names at 140, Subriel Matias, maybe Devin Haney down the line. It elevates them into that elite tier.
And the venue, San Antonio, we touched on it, but the crowd is going to be almost entirely pro Cruz, right?
Oh, absolutely. The energy will be intense. It'll feel like a home fight for Cruz. That's a huge boost for him.
How does Roach deal with that?
He has to use it as fuel. Block it out, stay disciplined, show that the atmosphere doesn't faze him. It's part of the mental battle.
All right, let's game it out. Based on everything, what are the likely paths to victory? How does Roach win this?
For Roach, it has to be a masterclass in boxing. Maintain distance using footwork and that jab. Frustrate Cruz, pile up points, avoid getting drawn into a war, especially early. He needs to weather the early storm and then dominate the later rounds as Cruz maybe tires from the chase.
So a decision win, maybe like a 116-112 type of thing.
Yeah, a competitive but clear unanimous decision feels like his best path. Controlled boxing for 12 rounds.
And for Cruz, how does the pit bull get it done?
Cruz needs to do what Cruz does best. Cut off the ring effectively, force Roach into exchanges in that short zone, land those heavy body shots early and often, break Roach's rhythm and maybe his will.
And the outcome, if he succeeds,
could be a clear decision if he just overwhelms Roach with volume and pressure. Or potentially a late stoppage if he manages to really hurt Roach and test that chin at the higher weight, if Roach's defense cracks under the constant assault.
A Cruz win would also completely flip that Davis narrative, wouldn't it? He'd have beaten the guy many thought beat Tank.
Exactly. All that should have won shine from Roach would transfer directly to Cruz. It would be a massive statement.
Okay, so wrapping up, it's a classic crossroads fight. Strength versus skill, pressure versus technique. 2 careers really on the line here.
2 styles, 2 different paths, huge stakes. It's going to be fascinating theater in San Antonio.
It really is. And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. Beyond just who wins, what does this fight signal about Lamont Roach's future?
Yeah, think about this. If he wins, or even performs well, and proves he can earn these massive paydays consistently at 140 pounds, does he just abandon the 130-pound division entirely?
Even if he holds the WBA title there?
Right. Does the money effectively force his hand? And if so, what does that mean for other champions? Will the WBA eventually have to step in and clear up the logjam if their champ isn't defending?
So it's not just about this one fight, but potentially about the landscape of multiple divisions and the power of the purse in boxing today. Lots to think about.
That's all it comes down to is just money. That's it. But I'm going to tell you, Lamont is, y'all been sleeping on Lamont Roach. I mean, I'm not supporting him because he's from D.C. like me, but I am because of that. But anyway, he's going to beat Cruz. It's going to be an easy fight. But what do you think? Let me know. But right now, we're going to go to the music portion of our show. And we're going to do right now a little bit of, I think we'll do some Durian funk out of Thailand. And this is Pai. And Pai is a section of Thailand. Very, a little different than other sections of Thailand. But check it out, Pai Reggae Party. So let's say that on the Shoulder Roll Virtual Boxing Podcast.
Yo, Durian Funk in the house. Lalita, queen of the groove, calling all nations to pipe. Feel that beat? It's time to move. Afro top fire. Let's ignite. From the streets of Bangkok to the hills of Chiang Mai, we rolling deep in Pai under neon sky so high. Durian sweet, got that funky twist. Mix it with the bassline, can't resist. Hippie hearts and island souls collide. Rasta flags waving on this riverside. Sweat dripping, feet stomping in the dust. Global fam we trust, no need to rush. Lalita, we feel the rhythm in their bones. We feel it, queen, let it flow. Lalita, from Africa to Siam, we own the night. Own it, ignite the light. Pai reggae party, turn it up loud. Dance like the river, wild and proud. Afrobeat, thunder, Thai spice, fire, funky guitars. Lift us higher and higher, Lalita. Shake your hips, wave your hands. All night and family losing all fear. Jerk chicken sizzle with some Tom heat. Reggae roots twisting in the Thai street. From Brooklyn blocks to Wise and Farms, we mash it up, breaking all alarms. Polyrhythms dancing like fireflies. Queen of the groove leads, open your eyes, Lalita. Who's ready to groove till the sun comes up? We ready, queen, fill our cup. Fusion fever, hearts unite, unite, unite. Your delight, a reggae party, turn it up loud. Dance like the river, wild and proud. Afrobeat, thunder, Thai spice, fire, funky guitars, and this higher and higher. Lalita, shake your hips, wave your hands. All night long across the land. By reggae party, no end in sight. Global banger, feel the vibe tonight. Slow it down now, feel the pulse inside. From the motherland drums to the Andaman tide. We all live on your divide. Now explode. Let the festival rise. Pie reggae party, turn it up loud. Dance like the river, wild and proud. Afrobeat, thunder, Thai spice, fire, funky guitars, lift us higher and higher. Lalita, one more time, shake it off. Shaking queen, never fall. Pie reggae party, echo through the night. Durian funk forever, global light. Reggae party, reggae party, reggae party.
All right, that's Durian Funk and Pie Reggae Party. Hope you got your groove on that one. And before we get out of here, Jessica has another report here. Let's see what Jessica has to say on the Shoulder Roll Virtual Boxing Podcast.
UFC veteran Jorge Masvidal was awarded a default judgment after filing a lawsuit against Fanmio, the company that promoted his 2024 boxing match against Nate Diaz. On Tuesday, Judge Beatrice Butchko Sanchez officially signed off on Masvidal's request to grant the final default judgment against Fanmio after an arbitrator awarded the former welterweight title challenger $5,315,268.64, plus post-judgment interest for non-payment from his fight against Diaz. Masvidal initially filed the lawsuit after he signed a deal to fight Diaz with a purse amount of $6 million, with an increase to $7 million if he was victorious. While Masvidal ultimately lost the fight, he claimed he was only ever paid $1 million plus a $150,000 advance. The arbitrator ultimately sided with Masvidal and ordered Fanmio to pay $5,315,268.64 to the fighter, which included compensatory damages in the amount of $4,850,000, plus fees for attorneys and interest. Now the judge has granted Masvidal's motion for final default judgment in his pursuit of money still owed to him by Fanmio. Of course, this isn't the only lawsuit Fanmio faces, over the fight with Diaz also going after the online streamer and promoter for funds he's still owed from the matchup against Masvidal. In his lawsuit, Diaz specifically singled out Fanmio and owner-president Solomon Engel for allegedly agreeing to pay him a sum of $10 million for the fight against Masvidal. The lawsuit alleges that Fanmio agreed to pay Diaz $1 million up front, with the additional $9 million payment due after the fight. A separate arbitrator overseeing that case also awarded Diaz a $6 million award, along with an additional $500,000 penalty against Fanmio founder Solomon Engel, who was found personally liable, as well as attorney fees and interest. Diaz is now awaiting final approval from a federal judge on his arbitration award as well. A world title defense against Manny Pacquiao can definitely be looked at for IBF welterweight champion Lewis Crocker, according to the Belfast Fighters manager Jamie Conlon. Crocker won the title with a split decision verdict against Paddy Donovan in September, and he, along with Conlon, has met with Matchroom Boxing CEO Frank Smith to explore what the next move will be. A February showdown with Conor Benn in London or voluntary defense in Belfast remain the two most likely options, but Conlon confirmed contact has been made with Pacquiao's manager Sean Gibbons about the possibility of taking on the Hall of Fame inductee. Pacquiao returned to the ring after a 4-year absence in July to challenge WBC champion Mario Barrios, with the fight ending in a majority draw. The 46-year-old former 8-division champion is keen to secure another crack at welterweight honors and is expected to challenge WBA champion Rolando Romero next. But should that fail to materialize, Conlon said the carrot of the IBF title could entice Pac-Man to look towards Crocker. I reached out to Sean Gibbons of Manny Pacquiao's team last night, Tuesday, Conlon told BBC Sport NI. They are trying to do Rolly Romero, but if that can't be done, then we are going to have communication. Romero and the WBA title is their first port of call, but he is strong on the idea if something can be done, it can definitely be looked at. What a rise it would be to fight Manny Pacquiao. However, much will depend on the outcome of November's middleweight rematch between Ben and Chris Eubank Jr. in terms of when Ben could be ready to return to the ring and drop back to welterweight. The updated IBF rankings have former light welterweight champion Liam Paro in the number 2 position, with Donovan, who is understood to be appealing September's decision at Windsor Park, in 3rd. A successful outcome for Donovan would most likely see him retain his high ranking and secure a final eliminator against Paro for the mandatory slot. Ben is the fight Crocker wants, and he is confident he will beat him, Conlon confirmed.
Thank you so much for those reports, Jessica. And, oh, man, we got to get ready to get out of here right now. As the time just goes so quickly, and I was drinking some water, so I'm clearing my throat. But I hope you enjoyed the show today. Again, I want to thank Kevin Elias for coming on talking about his game, 4 Dice Boxing. Check it out. And just check out all the news they have on here. And just tell a friend to tell a friend about the show. But again, this is Greg Rashid. Go in love and go in peace. Help someone along the way. Wake up in the morning and give yourself a big hug and say that you love yourself. Because you don't love yourself, you can't do anything. Because you don't love yourself, that means you don't love anyone. So love yourself. And do what you can in your community. Make it a better place. Do everything from help a senior in need, pick up trash in your neighborhood, help a young person in need, help an animal in distress. Do what you can. Get to know your neighbors because we're on this big blue ball together. Got to work together despite the wars and rumors of wars. We got to do what we can to bring some sort of peace to our section of this big blue ball. So go in love, go in peace. See you next time on the Shoulder Roll Virtual Boxing Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Please become a member at patreon.com under the title Ringside Fantasy Fights and News. See you next time.